me! Please! Someone!
What?
Anyone!
Hey!
Hey! Stop! Right now!
It was 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning at the Harlem fish market. The place was alive. Hundreds of people were walking between the stalls. Customers were shouting. Vendors were calling out prices. Children were running between their parents' legs. Music was playing from someone's car. The smell of fresh fish mixed with the smell of hot food cooking nearby. The sun was bright. The energy was electric. Quesa Taylor was in the middle of it all, standing behind her fish cart, selling snapper and grouper to morning shoppers. She had been there since 4:30 a.m. She had set up. She had cut the ice. She had arranged the fish perfectly. And for the last 6 hours, she had been selling, talking to customers, making money for the restaurant she dreamed of opening. This was her world. The noise, the chaos, the people, the independence. Then everything changed. A black SUV came racing down the street. It was going too fast for the market. It was going too fast for anywhere. It screeched to a stop right in front of a high-end restaurant across from Quesa's cart. A tall man in an expensive gray suit jumped out of the vehicle. He was panicking. His eyes were wide. His hands were shaking. He was looking around like he was lost, like he didn't belong here, like he was scared. "Help me," he screamed, his voice cracking with pure desperation. "Please, someone, anyone." But it wasn't because he was in danger from the vehicle. It was because 3 men were chasing him. They came around the corner at full speed. 3 black men, moving fast, moving angry, moving like they had been chasing him for blocks. The crowded market suddenly stopped. People froze. Conversations cut off. Everyone was watching. One of the men was shouting, "Give it to us, give us the briefcase, that's all we want." The tall man, James, was running through the market now, pushing through people, trying to get away. The 3 men were right behind him. They were getting closer, closer. He was going to be cornered, he was going to be caught, he was going to lose whatever they wanted from him. And Quesa Taylor made a decision in that moment, a decision that would change everything. This was the moment that would trap her in a life she never asked for, the moment she would save someone who would refuse to let her go. But before we get to that moment, let me tell you how Quesa ended up standing in a bustling Harlem fish market on a Tuesday morning, ready to risk everything for a complete stranger. Let me tell you a story about what happens when kindness meets obsession. A story about the difference between saving someone and imprisoning someone. A story about a young black woman who had survived the worst and was about to face her biggest fight. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and stay tuned. Quesa Taylor was 23 years old. She had no parents, no family, no safety net, no plan B. She was born in Harlem to a mother who loved drugs more than she loved her child and a father who was never in the picture. By the time Quesa was 5 years old, her mother was gone too. Not dead, just gone. Left her with Quesa's grandmother, Promise Taylor, who was already raising 3 other grandchildren and working 2 jobs just to keep them all fed. Quesa grew up in a small apartment on 138th Street, the kind of apartment where the heat didn't work in winter and the air conditioning didn't work in summer. The kind of apartment where you heard your neighbors' arguments through paper-thin walls. The kind of apartment where love existed but money didn't. Her grandmother, Promise, was the strongest woman Quesa had ever known. Promise worked as a hospital cleaner during the day and as a night security guard on the weekends. She came home exhausted but still made sure there was food on the table. She came home broken but still made sure her grandchildren knew they were loved. "Quesa," her grandmother would say, holding her close while they shared one blanket in winter, "you got something in you that other people don't have. You got strength. You got heart. One day you're going to figure out how to use that to build a life for yourself. And when you do, don't you ever forget where you came from. Don't you ever forget this apartment. Don't you ever forget me." Quesa promised she would remember. When Quesa was 18, her grandmother had a stroke. It happened on a Tuesday morning. Quesa was at her part-time job at a grocery store when she got the call. Promise was in the hospital. Promise was stable but weak. Promise needed help. Quesa quit her job that day. She spent the next 3 years taking care of her grandmother. She worked whenever she could find work. Fast food, cleaning houses, babysitting, anything that paid. She spent her nights by her grandmother's bedside, reading to her, talking to her, telling her about her dreams. "One day I'm gonna have my own business," Quesa would say. "Something real, something that makes me independent, something nobody can take away from me." Promise would squeeze her hand and smile. Promise died on a cold November morning when Quesa was 21. She died with Quesa holding her hand. She died knowing her granddaughter was going to be okay. After the funeral, there was nothing left. The apartment was gone. The money was gone. Quesa had no place to go. She slept in a homeless shelter for 2 weeks before she decided she was done depending on other people. She got a job at a fish market in the South Bronx. She worked for a man named Ricardo who had owned that market for 30 years. He was kind to her. He paid her cash under the table because he didn't ask questions. He taught her everything about fish: how to cut it, how to price it, how to talk to customers, how to build relationships. After 6 months of saving every penny, Quesa bought her own small cart. She started selling fish on the street corners of Harlem and the Bronx. Early mornings, late evenings, every single day. No days off, no excuses. She rented a small room in a boarding house on 135th Street, a place so cramped she could touch both walls if she stretched her arms. But it was hers, the first thing that had ever truly belonged to her. Her life wasn't much, but it was honest, it was independent, it was real. On the morning that everything changed, Quesa had been selling fish for almost 2 years. She had saved $4,200 in a bank account under her name. She had a plan. In 2 more years, she would have enough to open a small fish restaurant, something with her name on it, something that would make her grandmother proud. She was standing in front of her cart in the middle of the bustling Harlem fish market, surrounded by hundreds of people, when the man in the expensive gray suit came running through the crowd with 3 angry men chasing him. The man in the torn gray suit was named James Peterson. James Peterson was 38 years old. He was worth $3 billion. He owned 3 tech companies. He sat on the board of 5 others. He had an apartment in Manhattan, a house in the Hamptons, and a condo in Miami. He had everything a person could possibly want. He had nothing a person actually needed. James grew up in Westchester County in a house with 12 rooms. His father was a venture capitalist who worked 16-hour days. His mother was a socialite who spent her days at the country club. He had every toy, every experience, every opportunity. What he didn't have was love. What he didn't have was presence. What he didn't have was a parent who actually knew him. At 14, James asked his father if they could go fishing together, just the 2 of them. One day, his father said he was too busy building an empire. James never asked again. At 25, James built his first company. He made $50 million. He called his father to tell him the news. His father said, "That's nice, son. I'm on a call with Tokyo. We'll celebrate when I get home." His father never made it home. He had a heart attack on the bathroom floor of his office. James went to the funeral. He went back to work. He kept building. He kept expanding. He kept telling himself that money was the only thing that mattered, that love was a waste of time, that relationships were transactions. By 38, he had proven his theory. He had dated many women. He had loved none of them. He had invested in hundreds of companies. He cared about none of them. He had built an empire but had built nothing that actually filled the empty space inside his chest. That Tuesday morning, on 125th Street in Harlem, James Peterson was about to understand what it meant to be completely helpless. He had come to meet with an investor, a man named Marcus Washington. Marcus had a tech startup that James wanted to buy. The price was $3 million in cash. James had brought the money in a briefcase, because some deals are done in cash. No records, no paper trail, just money face to face, businessman to businessman. After the meeting ended at Marcus's office building, James had gotten in his driver's car to head back to his penthouse. But his driver had gotten a call about a family emergency. His sister was in an accident. She needed him, so James told him to go. "I'll take an Uber," James said, "or I'll drive myself." His driver left him the car. James had never driven himself anywhere in 5 years. He had no idea where he was going. His GPS was broken. He turned down what he thought was the right street. It wasn't. He was lost, completely lost, with $3 million in a briefcase sitting on the passenger seat. He didn't see the 3 men following him until they pulled him out of his car 3 blocks away. They had seen him get in the vehicle. They had seen the briefcase. They had been waiting for an opportunity. And now they were chasing him through the Harlem fish market because he had run when they approached him. He was panicking. He was running. He had no idea what to do. The 3 men were catching up to him. They were pushing through the crowd. People were jumping out of the way. The energy of the market shifted from happy to terrified in seconds. James was about to be cornered. He was running toward Quesa's area of the market, toward the fish carts, toward the crowds. And that's when Quesa saw him clearly. She saw the fear in his eyes. She saw the 3 men chasing him. She saw a person who needed help. Without thinking, without hesitation, without considering her own safety, she did what she had always done. She helped. "Hey," Quesa screamed. Her voice was loud, louder than the music, louder than the market noise. "Hey, stop right now." The 3 men paused for just a second. People around Quesa turned to look at her. "Police are coming," she shouted, pointing down the street. "I called them, they're already coming." She didn't have a phone in her hand, but she pointed like she was signaling someone. She made eye contact with people around her. She created urgency. She created the impression that help was already on the way. The 3 men looked at each other. They looked down the street. They didn't see a police car, but they weren't sure. They weren't certain. And that doubt was all Quesa needed. She moved fast then. She stepped toward them. She made herself bigger. She moved in front of James, positioning herself between him and the men. "You need to leave," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Right now, before the police get here. Leave the man alone and go. That's your only option." The market was completely silent now. Everyone was watching. Everyone was seeing this young black woman stand up to 3 grown men to protect a complete stranger. One of the men took a step back. "This isn't over," he said, but he was already turning to leave. The other 2 followed. Within seconds they were gone, disappearing into the crowd, disappearing into the city. Quesa stood there, her hands shaking, her heart beating so hard she thought it would jump out of her chest. The market slowly started to come back to life. People went back to shopping. Music played again. The moment had passed. She turned around to look at James. He was standing there, briefcase still in his hand, looking at Quesa like she was the most incredible person he had ever seen. "You saved my life," he said. His voice was shaking. His eyes were full of tears. "You actually saved my life. With nothing, you had nothing, no weapon, no help, and you still saved me." "You okay?" Quesa asked, being practical. She was looking him over to see if he was hurt. "I'm okay," James said, "because of you." He looked around at the market, at all the people, at the bustling activity that had immediately surrounded them again. "I can't thank you enough," he said. "Tell me what you want, money, a job, anything. I can give you anything." Quesa shook her head. She turned back to her fish cart. She started arranging the ice that had melted during all the excitement. "I don't want anything from you," she said. "Why would you help me then?" James asked. He looked confused. In his world, everyone wanted something. Everyone was transactional. Because you needed help, Quesa said simply. That's the only reason, that's enough. James Peterson stood in the middle of the bustling Harlem fish market and watched this young woman go back to selling fish like she hadn't just changed his entire life. And he couldn't stop thinking about her. If you've ever been the kind of person who helps people even when you don't have much to give, you know what Quesa felt in that moment. Comment below and tell me about a time you helped someone even though it scared you. I'm reading every single comment because your story matters. Let's continue the story because what happens next is going to blow your mind. James didn't leave the market. He stood there for another hour watching Quesa work. She was incredible to watch. She was quick. She was kind to customers. She knew every person who came to her cart by name. She remembered what fish they liked. She threw in extra for people who looked like they didn't have much money. She treated her work with respect. She treated her customers with respect. She was nothing like anyone he had ever met. When the market started closing at 5 p.m., James finally approached her. "Can I take you to dinner?" he asked. Quesa looked at him suspiciously. She had learned to be careful. She had learned that people with money often wanted things. She had learned that kindness from rich people usually came with a price tag. "I'm tired," she said. "I'm going home." "Tomorrow then," James said. "Let me take you to dinner tomorrow night, please. It's the least I can do." Quesa thought about it. This man had $3 million in a briefcase. He clearly had money, but he also clearly had been in real danger, and she had helped him anyway. "Okay," she said. "Tomorrow, but just dinner, nothing else." "Just dinner," James agreed. But as he left the market that evening, he was already planning his next move. He was already thinking about how to convince her to let him help her. He was already becoming obsessed. The next evening, he picked her up in a town car. He took her to a restaurant on the Upper East Side, a place where the waiters knew his name, a place where money meant you got the best table. Quesa felt out of place. She wore her nicest clothes, but they were still just regular clothes from a discount store. Everyone around her was wearing designer everything. But James didn't care. He looked at her like she was the most beautiful woman in the room. "I want to help you," he said over dinner. "I want to give you opportunities. I want to change your life." "My life doesn't need changing," Quesa said. "I'm doing fine." "You're selling fish from a cart," James said. "You could be doing so much more." "I like selling fish from a cart," Quesa said. "I built that myself. Nobody gave it to me. I earned it." James leaned back. He was thinking, he was planning. "Come stay with me," he said. "For a month, just 1 month. Let me show you what's possible. If you hate it after a month, you can go back to your cart." Quesa should have said no. Every instinct told her to say no. But she was tired. She was tired of being cold. She was tired of being broke. She was tired of struggling. 1 month, she said, just 1 month. It was the biggest mistake of her life, but she didn't know that yet. If you can see this coming, if you can already tell this man is dangerous, drop a comment below with red flag. Because I'm about to show you what happens when gratitude turns into control, when love becomes possession. Quesa packed one small bag. Everything she owned fit inside. She left a message for her landlord. She left her fish cart in the shop of a man she trusted. She walked away from the only independence she had ever built. And as she got into James Peterson's black SUV, she didn't know that this decision would cost her more than she could possibly imagine. She didn't know that the man sitting next to her was about to turn his gratitude into chains. She didn't know that the only way out would be to walk away from someone she would learn to love. She didn't know that sometimes saving someone means you have to destroy yourself. But that's exactly what was about to happen. The penthouse was on the 42nd floor of a building on Park Avenue. It had been designed by someone who cost more money than Quesa had ever seen in her entire life. The floors were marble. The walls were white. The furniture was modern and expensive and uncomfortable. Everything about it was beautiful. Everything about it was cold. James showed her around on her first night. He walked her through 10 rooms. 10. Keisha's entire life had fit into one room that was smaller than this apartment's kitchen. "This is the master bedroom," James said, opening a door to a room the size of Keisha's old apartment. "You'll sleep here with me, if that's okay." It wasn't a question. They both knew it wasn't a question. "And this," he continued, opening another door, "is your closet." It was a room, an entire room. It was filled with clothes, expensive clothes, designer clothes, clothes that had never been worn, clothes that James had bought for her while she was still at the market. "How did you?" Keisha started. "I watched you," James said. "I watched everything about you. I know your style, I know what you like. I'm going to take care of everything. You don't have to worry about anything anymore, ever again." The first 3 days, Keisha was amazed. She took baths in the marble bathroom and cried because she'd never felt water that hot for that long. She ate food that a private chef prepared and couldn't believe how good it tasted. She slept on sheets with a thread count so high she didn't even know numbers went that high. James watched her experience all of these things like he was watching a child, like she was precious, like she was his. On the third night, he took her to a restaurant, an expensive one, a place where the waiters knew his name, a place where people recognized him and whispered as they walked past. He held her hand. He told people, "This is Keisha, this is my Keisha, she saved my life. My Keisha." It felt nice to belong to something. That was the dangerous part. After a lifetime of belonging to nothing, the feeling of belonging to someone felt like home. By the 4th day, James started asking questions. "Tell me about your ex-boyfriends," he said one morning over breakfast. They were sitting at a table big enough for 12 people, and it was just the two of them. "I don't have any ex-boyfriends," Keisha said. "I've never had time for relationships. I was working. I was selling fish." "Good," James said, and he smiled. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was a possessive smile. It was the smile of a man who was glad that nobody else had ever touched the woman he decided belonged to him. "Do you have friends?" he asked the next morning. "Yes, people from the market. Ricardo, the man who taught me the business. People from my boarding house." "I think it would be better if you focused on me right now," James said. "New relationships take time, real time, not divided time. You understand that, right?" Keisha understood, but she didn't like it. She asked if she could call Ricardo. She wanted to tell him she was okay. She wanted to explain why she left her cart. James said yes, but he listened to the entire phone call. He stood right next to her while she talked. He made faces at her. He distracted her. He made sure she couldn't have a real conversation. When she hung up, he said, "I don't think you should work anymore." "What do you mean?" Keisha asked. "I mean you don't have to work. I have enough money for both of us. I have enough money for 10 of us. Why would you want to work when you could just be with me?" Keisha thought about her plan, her restaurant, the business she was building with her own 2 hands, the independence she had worked so hard to create, the money sitting in the bank account. "I want to save money," she said, "for my restaurant." "I'll buy you a restaurant," James said. "I'll buy you 10 restaurants. I'll buy you anything you want. You just have to want to be with me." And that was the trap. That was how he caught her. Not with chains, with gifts, not with force, with kindness, not with cruelty, with love. How could she say no? How could she tell a man who loved her that his gifts weren't enough? How could she explain that what she wanted wasn't things, that what she wanted was herself? She couldn't. So she stopped calling Ricardo. She stopped texting the few friends she had in Harlem. She stopped thinking about the market. Instead, she stayed in the penthouse. She stayed with James. She became his, slowly, carefully, almost without noticing it was happening. She didn't go outside without James. When he went to work, she stayed in the apartment. She had a phone, but it was his phone. She could text people, but he saw every message. She could make calls, but he listened. "If you need to call someone," he said, "just ask me. I'll help you. I'm here to help you." But when she asked to call someone, he was always busy, or the person she wanted to call was busy, or there was a better time to call them. There was never a better time. There was never really a time at all. "Do you remember when you were selling fish?" James asked her on the afternoon of the 6th day. They were sitting on the couch. A television was playing something neither of them was watching. "Yes," Quesa said quietly. "You were so tired all the time," James continued. "Remember, you would come home exhausted, your feet would hurt, your hands would be cold. Now you're happy, now you're healthy, I'm taking care of you." "I know," Quesa said. "So why would you want to go back to that?" James asked. "Why would you want to leave this? Leave me? Why would you want to hurt me like that?" And that was when Quesa understood. He wasn't taking care of her. He was trapping her. He was isolating her. He was making her dependent on him so that she couldn't leave even if she wanted to. She wanted to leave. On the 7th morning, she asked if she could go back to the market, just for an hour, just to say goodbye to Ricardo properly, just to close that chapter of her life. James's face changed. It was like watching a light turn off inside a room. "You want to leave me?" he asked quietly. "No, I just want to." "You're saying goodbye," he interrupted. "You're preparing to leave me." "I'm not leaving you, I'm just—" "After everything I've done for you," James said, his voice getting louder. "After I've given you everything, you want to hurt me by trying to leave." "It's just the market. I can be back in an hour." "It's not about the market," he said. "It's about what you're saying with that request. You're saying you want to go back. You're saying this isn't enough. You're saying I'm not enough." Quesa didn't argue. She had learned that arguing only made things worse. James would get sad. He would cry. He would tell her how much her words had hurt him, and she would feel guilty. She would apologize. She would promise she didn't mean it. She would promise to stay. Later that day, she tried to go to the balcony for fresh air. James found her standing there, looking out at the city. "Why do you want to leave?" he asked. "I'm not leaving, I'm just getting air." "The air is fine in here," he said. "I have air purifiers, the best ones. You don't need to go out there. Out there is dangerous. Out there, people will try to take you away from me." He put his arm around her. It felt like a cage. "I keep you safe," he said. "Inside these walls, nothing can hurt you. No one can hurt you. As long as you stay with me, you're safe." But Quesa didn't feel safe. She felt trapped. And by evening of day 7, she realized she couldn't even remember what freedom felt like. That evening, Quesa asked if she could check her bank account, the one with her $4,200, the money she had saved penny by penny at the fish market. "Of course," James said. He seemed almost relieved by the question, like he had been waiting for her to ask. She logged into her account on his computer, the password he watched her type. The money wasn't there. "Where is my money?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "I transferred it," James said simply. "It's combined with my money now. We're a unit. We share everything. There's no reason for you to have separate money. I take care of you." Quesa felt something inside her snap. "That was my money," she said. "That was my money that I earned, that I worked for. You didn't have the right." "I had every right," James said coldly. "Because you're mine now. Your money is my money. Your life is my life. Your choices are my choices. That's what being together means." "That's not what being together means," Quesa said. "That's what being owned means." James stood up. His face was dark. She had never seen him look like this before. "You're ungrateful," he said quietly. "After everything I've done, after I pulled you out of that pathetic life, after I gave you everything, this is how you repay me, by saying I don't have the right to protect you." "Protect me from what?" Quesa asked. "From my own life." "From yourself," James said. "You don't understand, you're fragile, you've been through so much. You need someone to take care of you. You need me. Without me, you're nothing. And that was the worst part. That was the thing that made Quesa want to scream, because some part of her believed him. Some part of her thought that maybe he was right. Maybe she did need him. Maybe she was nothing without him. Maybe the life she had built before this wasn't real. Maybe she was meant to be here in this penthouse with this man who loved her so much that he needed to control every part of her. But her grandmother's voice was still in her head, still fighting, still whispering. You got strength in you, Quesa. Don't let nobody take that from you. She was letting him take it. And she didn't know how to stop. Quesa is about to make the most important decision of her life. And I need you to comment right now about what you think she should do. Should she try to escape? Should she fight back? Should she try to make this work? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Keep watching and listening because you're not ready for what happens next. Quesa didn't sleep that night. She lay in the dark, listening to James breathe, feeling trapped in a bed that cost more money than she used to make in a year. She thought about the market, she thought about the noise, the chaos, the freedom. She thought about running. She thought about walking to the door and leaving, but she had no money, she had no phone, she had no clothes that belonged to her. Everything she had was his, everything she was had become his. So she did something she hadn't done in days. She cried. She cried so quietly that James didn't wake up. She cried for the girl who sold fish in the bustling Harlem market. She cried for the independence she had built and lost. She cried for the dream of a restaurant that would never happen. She cried for the person she had been before she saved James Peterson's life in a market full of people who were watching. When morning came on day 8, she made a decision. She couldn't leave. Not yet, not right now, but she would prepare. She would plan. She would find a way to get her power back. She would find a way to be herself again. But it was going to take time, and it was going to hurt, and it was going to require her to pretend that everything was okay while she was dying inside. Good morning, James said, kissing the top of her head. Did you sleep well? Yes, Quesa lied. I slept very well. I love you, he said. I love you too, she lied again. And that was the moment when Quesa understood the true cost of his obsession. She wasn't just losing her freedom. She was losing her ability to be honest. She was becoming a liar. She was becoming someone she didn't recognize. She was becoming someone that James wanted her to be. Outside the penthouse, the city continued on. Millions of people living their lives, making choices, building futures. But inside that 42nd floor apartment, Quesa Taylor was planning an escape that would cost her everything. The penthouse felt smaller every day, even though it was massive, even though it had more space than Quesa had ever imagined. It felt like the walls were closing in. She had become a beautiful prisoner, a caged bird with expensive wings that she was no longer allowed to use. And that was the moment when Quesa understood the true cost of his obsession. She wasn't just losing her freedom. She was losing her ability to be honest. She was becoming a liar. She was becoming someone she didn't recognize. She was becoming someone that James wanted her to be. Outside the penthouse, the city continued on. Millions of people living their lives, making choices, building futures. But inside that 42nd floor apartment, Quesa Taylor was planning an escape that would cost her everything. The penthouse felt smaller every day, even though it was massive, even though it had more space than Quesa had ever imagined. It felt like the walls were closing in. She had become a beautiful prisoner, a caged bird with expensive wings that she was no longer allowed to use. Quesa stood in the lobby of James's office building on 52nd Street. It was a Tuesday morning in April, exactly 5 months after the day in the bustling Harlem fish market. 5 months since she had saved his life. 5 months since she had lost hers. James had asked her to come with him to the office. He said he wanted to show her the company. He said he wanted to introduce her to people. He said he wanted to show everyone who his Quesa was. But what he really wanted was to make sure she came back with him at the end of the day. What he really wanted was to keep her close. What he really wanted was to own her completely. They had been sitting in his office on the 45th floor. Quesa was staring out the window. James was on a conference call, and that's when she saw it. On his desk, a document, a bank statement. It had her name on it. Her $4,200 that she had saved, all of it, sitting in an account that she could not access, an account that James had created without her knowledge, an account that he controlled completely. He had lied to her, directly, completely. He had made her believe that she had nothing so that she would need him for everything. And Quesa Taylor, the girl who had survived being an orphan, who had survived sleeping in shelters, who had survived the worst the world had to offer, who had stood in a bustling market with nothing but her courage and saved a complete stranger, decided in that moment that she would not survive this. Not like this, not as his possession. When James came back from his conference call, she made her move. "I need to use the bathroom," she said. Her voice was calm, her hands were steady. "Of course," he said. He didn't suspect anything. He had convinced himself that she was happy, that she wanted to be there. She went to the bathroom, she locked the door, she took a deep breath. And then she stepped out of the 45th floor bathroom, walked straight to the elevator, pressed the button for the lobby, and left James Peterson behind. The elevator doors opened on the first floor. Quesa walked out into the Manhattan morning. She didn't look back. She didn't stop. She didn't think about what she was doing. She just walked. For the first time in 5 months, Quesa Taylor was free. But freedom was not what she thought it would be. Quesa ran for 3 blocks before she stopped. She was breathing so hard she thought her lungs would explode. Her heart was beating so fast she couldn't count the beats. She was free. But free was terrifying. She had no money. The $4,200 was still in the account James controlled. She had no phone. Well, she had a phone, but it was on James's plan, and the second she tried to use it, he would know where she was. She had no place to go. Her old boarding house had probably rented out her room months ago. She had no clothes except the expensive ones he had bought her, and she was wearing them. She had no people to call because she had cut off every person in her life. She had built her entire life around James Peterson, and now that she was away from him, she realized that she didn't have a life. She had memories of a market and a dream of a restaurant and absolutely nothing else. For about 10 minutes, Quesa considered going back. James would forgive her. He always forgave her. He would be angry, sure, but he would forgive her. And at least in that penthouse, she had food and shelter and someone who claimed to love her. But then she thought about the bank statement. He had lied to her. He had made her feel powerless so that she would believe she needed him. She would not go back. She walked for hours. She found a homeless shelter on 116th Street that took walk-ins. She stayed there that night, sleeping on a cot with 20 other women. Some of them were running from abusive partners too. Some of them were just poor. Some of them were just lost. Nobody asked her questions. Nobody wanted to know her story. She was just another woman trying to figure out how to survive the next day. The next morning, Quesa realized that she had to be smart. She had to think like someone trying to survive, because she was someone trying to survive. She went to the fish market in Harlem, the place where it all started, the bustling market where she had been independent, the market where she had been herself. She found Ricardo closing up for the day. He hadn't seen her in 5 months. His face showed shock, then sadness, then something that looked like understanding. "Quesa," he said, "baby girl, where have you been?" She told him the truth, not all of it, but enough. "I got out," she said. "I'm out now, but I need help, I need a job, I need money, I need to get my life back." Ricardo didn't ask questions. He gave her work. He paid her in cash. He gave her a place to sleep in the storage room above his market, the same market where she had started, the same market where she had been free. For the next month she worked 16-hour days. She sold fish like she had done before. She saved every penny. She rebuilt her bank account, penny by penny, dollar by dollar. She was back where she started, but she was different now. She understood now. She had been broken and was learning how to heal. And she waited. Because she knew James would come looking for her. Men like James don't accept rejection. They don't accept loss. They see it as a personal attack. She was right to wait. He found her at the fish market on a cold morning in May. 5 months after she had walked out of his office building. 6 months after she had saved his life in this very market. He was alone. No security. No driver. Just James standing in the market that had started it all, looking like a man who hadn't slept in months. He looked smaller somehow, less powerful, more human. "Why did you do that?" he asked. His voice was broken, his eyes were red. "Because I'm not yours," Quesa said simply. She was cutting fish while she talked. Her hands were steady. Her voice was steady. She had built her strength back. She was rebuilding herself piece by piece, just like she had built her fish cart years ago. "I love you," James said. "No, you don't," Quesa answered. "You love the idea of me. You love having someone to control, but you don't love me. Because if you did, you would have let me be myself. You would have let me dream. You would have let me be free." James stood there. He looked around the market. He looked at Quesa, standing behind her cart, wearing her work clothes again, back to being the person he had tried to erase. "I'll change," he said. "I can change. If you just give me another chance, I'll." "No," Quesa interrupted him. "You won't change. You can't change. And I'm not waiting for you to try." She turned away from him. She went back to cutting fish. She waited for him to leave. And after what felt like forever, he did. Quesa just made the hardest choice of her life. She chose herself. And that's what I want you to do. If you're watching this and you're trapped in any kind of relationship, romantic, friendship, family, where someone is trying to control you, I need you to know something. You are not stuck. You have power. You have choices. And your life is worth saving. Quesa worked at the market for 6 more months. She saved every penny. She didn't allow herself to think about James. She didn't allow herself to wonder if he was okay or if he was suffering. She didn't allow herself to feel guilty for leaving him. Because guilt was his tool. Guilt was how he had trapped her in the first place. By November, she had saved enough for a security deposit on a small restaurant space. It was in a rough part of the Bronx. It had old equipment. It had a roof that leaked. It had everything wrong with it. But it was hers. It took her a year to fix it up. It took her 2 years to get the permits. It took her everything she had. But in 2025, Quesa Taylor opened a restaurant called Promise's Kitchen. She named it after her grandmother. The restaurant served the kind of food that her grandmother had taught her to make with love even when there was no money. It served the kind of food that tasted like home. It served the neighborhood. It served people who had nothing, just like Quesa had had nothing. Her story got around. A local news station did a story on her, from fish cart to restaurant owner. The story went semi-viral. People came from all over the city to eat at Promise's Kitchen. She was happy, not the kind of happy that James had promised her, not the kind where someone else was responsible for her joy, but the kind of happy that comes from building something with your own 2 hands, the kind that comes from being yourself. One evening, a young woman came into the restaurant. She was thin. She was alone. She was sitting in the corner, looking at the menu like she was trying to decide if she could afford to eat. Quesa recognized something in her eyes. She recognized the look of someone who was trapped. "What's your name?" Quesa asked, sitting down across from her. "Destiny," the woman said quietly. "Tell me your story, Destiny," Quesa said. And Destiny told her everything, about her boyfriend, about how he said he was protecting her, about how he had cut her off from everyone, about how she thought she was going crazy. Quesa listened. She didn't interrupt, she just listened. And when Destiny was done, Quesa said, "You're going to leave him, and when you do, I'm going to help you. Not because I owe you anything, because I've been where you are, and I know you can survive it." Quesa didn't just feed Destiny that night. She gave her a number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline. She gave her a place to stay. She gave her hope. And Destiny eventually left her boyfriend. From that moment on, Quesa made it her mission. Every person who came into Promise's kitchen who was struggling, who was scared, who was trapped in a situation they couldn't escape, Quesa saw them. And Quesa helped them. She wasn't going to be the victim of this story anymore. She was going to be the hero. It was a Tuesday evening, exactly 2 years after she had escaped the penthouse. Quesa was closing up. She was counting the register. A man walked in. She didn't recognize him at first. He was thin, thinner than she remembered. His suit was wrinkled. His hair was growing out. He looked like he hadn't taken care of himself in a very long time. It was James. "Please don't kick me out," he said immediately. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to ask you to come back. I wanted to see what you built." Quesa almost kicked him out. She almost called the police. But something in his eyes told her that he was different. That whatever had happened to him in the time since she left had broken him in a way that maybe could heal him. "Sit," she said. He sat at a table by the window. She brought him food, fish, seasoned the way her grandmother had taught her, served with love. He ate silently. When he finished, he started crying. "I've been in therapy," he said, "for 2 years, every single day. I've been trying to understand why I did what I did, why I thought that controlling you was the same as loving you, why I thought that possession was the same as care." Quesa didn't respond. She was listening, but she wasn't forgiving. Not yet, maybe not ever. "I can't ask you to forgive me," James continued. "I can't ask you to take me back. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. You were right that I didn't love you. I was in love with the idea of you. I was in love with the fantasy of you. But the real you, the strong you, the independent you, the you that stood up to me in that market and left me in that penthouse, that you I should have loved all along." He paused. He looked at her restaurant. He looked at her face. He looked at everything she had built. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I know I don't have the right to say that, but I am. This is beautiful. You are beautiful. And I'm sorry it took me losing you to understand that." He looked at his empty plate. "I started a foundation," he said, "with my money, for women who have been in situations like the one I put you in. I called it Promise's Foundation, after your grandmother. I would never have done that without losing you. I would never have understood how much damage I caused if you hadn't had the strength to walk away." Quesa sat down across from him. She wasn't ready to forgive him, but she was ready to listen. Quesa didn't forgive James that night. She didn't forgive him the next week. She didn't forgive him for several months. But she let him come back to the restaurant once a week. He would sit at the corner table. He would eat quietly. He would sometimes talk. Sometimes he wouldn't, but he was there. And over time, something changed. Quesa realized that forgiving James wasn't about letting him back into her life. It was about releasing the anger that was taking up space inside her. It was about understanding that he was broken too, that he was trying to heal too. One evening, about a year after he first showed up, James said something that changed everything. "I'm moving out of the penthouse," he said. "I sold it. I'm using the money to expand the foundation. We've helped over 500 women now. 500 women who were in situations like the one you were in. 500 women who got out because we helped them." Quesa listened. "I'm calling it Promise's Foundation," James continued, "after your grandmother. If you want to be involved, I would be honored, but if you don't, I understand." Quesa thought about it for a long time. She thought about the day in the market when she had saved a stranger. She thought about how that stranger had turned her life upside down. She thought about how she had found the strength to save herself. She thought about her grandmother. "I'll help," she said, "but as partners, not as anything else. Just as two people trying to fix something that's broken in the world." "Just as partners," James repeated. He looked relieved. He looked sad. He looked like he had finally accepted that some love doesn't last forever, but that some good can come from pain anyway. And that's how it ended. Not with them running off into the sunset, not with a tragic death, but with two broken people learning how to heal separately while helping other broken people heal too. Quesa went on to open 3 more restaurants, each one in a neighborhood that needed it, each one in a place where poor people could afford to eat good food, each one named after someone she loved or had lost. Her life became a tribute to the people who had shaped her, to her grandmother, Promise, whose strength had saved her life, to Ricardo, who had given her work when she had nothing, to herself, for having the courage to choose freedom over comfort. James spent the rest of his life atoning for the way he had loved Quesa. He never married again. He never tried to control anyone else. He just worked. He just helped. He just tried to be better. They remained friends, not close friends, but real friends. The kind where you can look at someone and remember the pain they caused you and the pain they're trying to heal from and choose compassion anyway. That's what this story is about. About a girl who sold fish in a bustling market, about a man who came to that market broken, about how saving someone can cost you everything, about how choosing yourself is not selfish, it's survival. Quesa's grandmother used to say that strength isn't about never falling. Strength is about getting back up. Quesa fell when she met James Peterson. She fell into a trap that looked like love but was really control. But she got back up. She got back up and she built a life. Not the life she imagined when she was selling fish in that bustling Harlem market, but a real life. A life where she was free. A life where she mattered. A life where she was herself. James learned that love without freedom is not love at all. He learned that possession is not protection. He learned that the people we love the most deserve the right to choose us every single day, not the obligation to need us. This story doesn't have a traditional happy ending, but it has a real ending, and real is better than happy sometimes. Real is honest. Real is painful and beautiful at the same time. If you are in a situation where someone is controlling you, isolating you, making you believe that you need them to survive, know that you don't. Know that you have strength inside you that you haven't discovered yet. Know that freedom is worth everything it costs. If you are the person controlling someone, if you are the James in someone's story, it's not too late to change. It's not too late to let them go. It's not too late to love them properly by releasing them. And if you've been hurt by someone you loved, if you've escaped a situation like Quesa's, know that your survival is not about forgetting. It's about remembering and choosing to be different anyway. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.